Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the first silencer I ever purchased, the Deadair Odessa 9. Now before we get into the review, I'm going to tell you I have no professional relationship with Deadair. I purchased this suppressor with my own money. In fact, this was the first silencer that I bought when I moved from California here to Texas, and I could get threaded barrels and silencers. I went into a shop and saw this sitting in there, and I absolutely had to have it for those James Bond vibes. And I would not recommend a 9mm pistol suppressor for your first can to purchase. If you're new, definitely get something for your rifle, be a little more civilized. But this was I'd say a good purchase, and it was the silencer that got me into suppressors, and now every single one of my rifles has a silencer on it. I'll use the word silencer, suppressor, or can. If any of those offend you, too bad. So over the last 5 years, I've used this suppressor on a lot of different guns. I've used it on a Tri-Arc Tri-11. I've used it on an MP5K clone. I've used it on this 22 long rifle SIG 1911. So I love 1911s. If I'm going to have a 22, it's going to be a 1911 22. There you go. I've also used it on a 357 lever action, my Rossi 92. I do shoot it only on there with 38 special because the muzzle energy limit on this suppressor is 500 foot-pounds, and 357 out of that long barrel is probably going to be pushing beyond that, and I don't want to blow this can up. So 38 special on there. And also, one of the most fun guns to shoot with it is this 32 ACP Colt 1903 pocket hammerless. There we go. As well as a Foxtrot Mike FM9 pistol caliber carbine subgun. Whatever. So I've used this on quite a few different guns throughout the years, and I feel like if you're looking for a 9mm suppressor that does not require suppressor height sights, this is definitely an option to look at. There's some positives, there's some negatives, and then I've got a conclusion. So let's jump right into it. So first off, what are the specs? It is a 9mm pistol suppressor that can shoot 22 long rifle all the way up to 38 special. It's not listed on the website. They do go up to 9mm, 22 mag, 5.7, and 32 ACP. So I'm assuming you could shoot 380 auto through it. 38 special, like I said, it's not on the website, but it's within that muzzle energy. So this is usable on something like that. Obviously, you're not going to be shooting it on a revolver, but that'd be really cool, a silenced revolver. It is 1.1 inches in diameter and 8.25 inches in overall length when it is in its full configuration. We'll talk about that in a second. It is modular. We'll talk about that as well. It comes with a 1/2 by 28 piston back here to be used on your 9mm and under suppressed pistols, and it has an MSRP of $899. So what are the things that I like about this suppressor? Well, first off is the diameter. When I bought this back in 2019, and really when it was announced a few years before that, the big benefit of it was this overall diameter of 1.1 inches. That allows pistols with iron sights to not have to have extra tall suppressor height sights to be able to switch back and forth. I don't like suppressor height sights. I think they look kind of goofy. If you have a red dot, we'll talk about that in a second, but if you have a red dot, typically you'll have to have higher sights to have the proper co-witness, but having this be as small as it was, or as it is in diameter, allows you to use those sights and to be able to see over the top of the suppressor. Now, with red dots being more and more ubiquitous, that benefit is not really necessary anymore, because most red dot mounts and red dots are going to sit high enough to see over a larger diameter suppressor. So it was cool back in the day. It's still kind of cool now for stuff like, a 32 ACP 1903. But where this suppressor really gets me is in 22 and shooting 22 long rifle and 32 ACP. So I'll talk about that in a second, but the diameter is nice for that. Next is, it is modular. You can shoot it, right now I have all 11 baffles on it. You can shoot it all the way down to no baffles, as they say on the website, and that gives you the ability to tune it for length and sound. I'm going to tell you right now, I typically leave it with 6 to 7 baffles on there. Going from 7 to 8, it's actually a rather large one. You do seem to get a much better sound suppression once you get to that 8th one from 7 and below. But just for the overall length and how much it's hanging off the gun, 6 to 7 is where I typically keep it. Now, this modularity also lends it to be user serviceable. Now, that's nice because if you're shooting 22, which is where this suppressor really shines, in my opinion, you do want to be able to take it apart to service it and clean it, because the FUD lore is that 22 long rifle will foul up your suppressor with lead sooner than others. I don't know if I've seen that overall, if that's just a myth, but if it is true, it's nice to be able to take this apart and clean it easier than, some other, solutions to be able to get that lead fouling out of your suppressor. Now, where I think this really shines is on 22 long rifle and, surprisingly enough, 38 special. Shooting those 2 rounds out of this sounds fantastic. 9mm, it's, not unbelievably difficult to suppress, but once it goes supersonic, you're going to have that crack. That's why the MP5 SD took supersonic rounds and made them subsonic to be quiet. So it's definitely going to reduce a lot of the concussion on a full supersonic 9mm, but you will still get that supersonic crack. But you shoot 22 out of this, you shoot 38 special, and it's a blast. So really, I think that this might be marketed wrong. I wouldn't market it as a 9mm pistol suppressor. I'd market it as a 22 suppressor that you can shoot 9mm out of, because that's really where you're going to have the most fun. Now, the negatives are suppression. This decreased volume in the suppressor itself in the baffles means that it's not going to trap as much of the expanding gases and sound, so it definitely doesn't suppress 9mm as well as a larger diameter can with a larger interior volume will. So it is not the quietest on the market. Those are the trade-offs for the slimness. And another drawback, I would say, I don't know why this happens, but this piston definitely gets dirtier quicker than any of my other suppressor pistons. And once this piston gets dirty, if it's not freely moving back and forth with the spring, it will cause malfunctions on your tilt barrel pistols. So on 1911s, I found that I have to clean it every 500 rounds or so to make sure that this piston and spring are moving freely and the next round feeds in the pistol. So you do have to clean this booster more often than other suppressors in my experience. So bottom line, what's the verdict? This is a definite buy. I would not buy it as my first suppressor if I were to do it over again, but it is definitely a buy, and I would buy it as a 22 suppressor that also happens to work on 9mm, 38 special, and 380, because shooting 22 through this is a blast. There's a lot of other modular 22 cans out there, and I don't know if I would actually purchase a 22 specific suppressor, because 22 is so easy to suppress. It's so easy to get quiet. Why limit yourself to 22 when you could have something like this that goes up to 9mm? So definitely a buy as a 22 suppressor that also shoots 9.